Greetings, my beings. It is your girl, Zhaque, and I am back with another video.
Sunshine is so high and so bright. Just another reason you could wake up and smile. It never misses a day, do you know why? It's a sign for you that every day you should try. Every day you should try to piece yourself together. We can make this world better if you try.
A rundown from last week. I really don't know how to do these YouTube intros, and I'm not going to try to be like nobody, so I'm going to just say what I think. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been longer than I wanted it to be, just for the sake of, I record these off my phone, and my phone didn't have any space, so I had to do some like working at opening that space up. So yeah. Oh, peep the jewelry that I have on as well. This is a rose quartz wrapped by moi. This is a rose quartz nose cup that I also made. New Age Essence is my business. My shop is gonna be down below. I don't think I have these up there, but I definitely have these up there, so make sure y'all get y'all's, period. Also, my new podcast episode is up. I don't know if I made it before or not, but if you guys haven't checked out my podcast, make sure y'all listen to my podcast because I think it's dope. I think that's it that I really care to talk about. So we're gonna talk about what we talked about in our last video. So last week we talked about the history of astrology just a tad. We also talked about the quadrants of the birth wheel. We also talked about the houses and what the houses represent, and we also talked about the zodiac signs and what elements they are and the qualities they have. We're gonna get into more depth on the quadrants today because that's just what it is. I got my notes here, so if you see me glancing over here, it's because I'm just looking at notes, period. And here we go. So when we are speaking on quadrants of the birth chart, I already told you guys that it's divided into four. With these quadrants, there are hemispheres. You know, you have a north hemisphere and a south hemisphere, and it's really awkward because when you're looking at an astrology map, it's opposite of what we actually know. So you'll think the top is north, but the top is south. The bottom is north, the left is east, the right is west, okay? So let's just make sure that we know that. We're going to talk about north and south. So these hemispheres are divided up by the ascending and the descending sign. So the ascending sign, of course, is your rising sign because it always starts at the right of the, the left of the chart, and then it goes across the line till it gets to your descendant line. When people have a lot of planets in the northern hemisphere, they are said to be more private and like inward. They tend to be more private and low-key and and don't care about being in everybody's face. Now, I don't know if I come off the wrong way. I have a lot of planets in the northern hemisphere, and I agree to that. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to be out there in a way, but I don't like for people to know my business, and I would rather stay on the back wall. A lot of people know me, but not too many people know me, if you get what I mean, period. And with that being said, in the northern hemisphere, you have houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and those are all interpersonal houses. Those are your self-expression house and your intimate expression, with relationships right outside of you. So that explains a lot. If you go to the southern hemisphere, this is said people with a lot of planets in the southern hemisphere tend to have a more outwards life and a more inclusive life when it comes to including everybody else in it. And when you think about it, it's the other set of the houses from 7 to 12. So these are the houses that talk about society and humanity as a whole. So when we get to the eastern and western hemisphere, remember it's going to be backwards because opposite map and whatnot. The eastern and western hemisphere is divided by the midhaven and the Coeli, and so this is the line that goes straight down. If you have a lot of planets on the eastern side of the chart, you are somebody with a lot of self-motivation and a lot of self-drive. And my interpretation of this is somebody who is gonna make up their own steps to take in life, gonna make up their own region, how to go in life, and whatnot, because it's said to say that if you have a lot of planets in the Western Hemisphere, your life is determined by fate. And I attest to this for this fact of, like, don't get me wrong, I do understand I get to choose what I get to choose, but I'm a tarot reader, I'm a healer, I'm a herb worker, so these are the things that, like, this is fate, like, this is going to be my purpose, this is going to be a part of my purpose, if you get what I mean. I don't believe, like, and I truly don't believe, I'm not going to say everybody doesn't have a purpose, but to me, we get a lot of lifetimes on this planet. And so if you have a lifetime where your birth chart is not destined by fate, this is a time for you to learn. If you're on the Western side, if you have a lot of planets on the Western side, it's said to say that you have a fate destined and whatever it is. And if you have a lot on the Eastern side, you have, like, free will and can do what you want. But people on the Western Hemisphere, I do believe that they have free will, of course, but they have more of a specific purpose, if that makes sense. I could be saying this wrong, but to me it makes sense, so that's how we're gonna go with it. So now we're gonna get into the quadrants. Let's start off with quadrant one. So we're gonna start off with quadrant one. We're gonna start off with quadrant one. Quadrant one is said to be all about your self-expression. The first house is your literal self-expression. The second house represents your self-esteem, and the third house is your values and your possessions. So when you think about those three all together, it's literally who you are as a whole. So the first quadrant is all about self-expression. The first quadrant is started by your ascending sign, which is literally your mask to the world. And your ascendant sign, your rising sign, is what you come off to people who don't know you. It's like your mask to the world. When people look at you, that's what they see. I'm a Virgo Rising. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I do be Virgoing real hard when people don't know me, but I didn't know that. I honestly didn't even know I was a Virgo Rising because my mother told me the wrong time that I was born. Thank God I found it on a baby picture. So when I first looked up the time, it was said that I had a rising Cancer and a Cancer moon. And I was like, but once I found out I had a Virgo Rising, it made a lot more sense, but it kind of, like, hurt my ego because I didn't really like Virgos. That's just the truth. But yeah, so your ascendant sign is how you come off to people, how they view you in the world, and it also starts your first quadrant. When we get to quadrant two, this is all about your expressions towards others and your private group. This quadrant is started by the Coeli, and this is going to be at the bottom of your chart. The Coeli is said to be your security in this world and, like, where you belong. These quadrants are represented by houses 4, which represents your home and your family. House 5, which represents your playful side and, like, relationships, who, like, flings and things and stuff like that, you know, when you're mingling, when you're singling, you know. And house 6, which represents your work life, your health, environment, where you put yourself in. Quadrant 3 is all about your relationships with people who go beyond intimacy relationships. Quadrant 3 accompanies houses 7, which is all about your long-term relationships. So this could be marriage, business partners, co-workers who you work with for a long time, you know. House 8, which represents the support you receive from the outside world. House 8 represents a lot, actually. Maybe I'll do a house video because the houses are pretty fucking deep, honestly. And house 9, which represents higher knowledge and your seek for the truth. This quadrant is started off by the descendant sign, which works very well because the descendant sign is basically your desire to be a part of society. And this is all about your first part into society. And last but not least, yeah, because I can't talk today. Last but not least, we get to quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 represents your energy towards humanity as a whole, period. House 10, which is all about, like, your public life and how you, like, what your public life is. House 11, which is all your relationships with groups of people. And house 12, which is your spirituality, hidden agendas, things behind the scenes. This quadrant is all about humanity and you towards, like, the whole world. So this is going to be relationships that are bigger than just the intimate relationships or even just work relationships. This is started by the medium Coeli, or the midhaven, which represents what direction you're taking in life. You feel me? So I think that's also cool because whatever direction you're taking in life is going to fall into those 3 houses. I think we should be more aware of what signs are in like what, so we really get a purpose of like, especially if you're feeling lost, because if you really don't know what you're supposed to be doing in life and it's like making you feel some type of way, it's very important to tap into your birth chart because it's gonna help, period. This was part 2 of Astrology 101. Thank you for tuning in, listening, and I'm grateful that you were here again. I know it probably took a little minute for me to get part 2 out, but that's because I had to figure some things out with my phone, but I'm definitely glad I did. With that being said, make sure you guys listen to my podcast. You feel me? Make sure you guys follow me on social media. Make sure you look at my Etsy shop and do whatever you want, because if you don't, it's okay. Just stay here and get knowledge. I mean, like, it's cool.
Make this world better if you try.